The episode begins with a Neanderthal man named Spear standing on the beach and yelling at Mira. He rushes into the ocean and swims but gets pushed into the water several times. A Tyrannosaurus named Fang stands and watches as the water pushes Spear back to the shore. He stands up, and as he stares at the ocean, he sees a leaf floating on the water. He rushes to the trees and uses his makeshift hammer to cut some down. Fang sees what he is doing and uses her teeth and tail to cut down some trees. Spear roars at Fang as they work together to gather logs of wood. Fang falls asleep that night, and Spear forms a raft using the wood. He asks Fang to climb on the raft the following morning, but she refuses. Spear rushes into the woods and uses several bugs as bait to make Fang get on the raft. He pushes the raft away from the shore, and they begin their journey through the ocean. Spear propels the raft as Fang sits and watches. He gets onto the raft because he is exhausted, and Fang uses her tail to propel the raft. That night, several sea creatures swim under the raft as the moon rises and illuminates the water. Spear and Fang hear strange noises, and as they wake up, they see several whales swimming beside them. They scream at the whales, and the whales eventually submerge. Spear wakes up the following morning and realizes that Fang is hungry. He jumps into the water and swims around in search of food. He continues swimming around but doesn't find any food and returns to the surface to breathe. Fang roars at him, and he screams at her. They lie on the raft as the sun hurts their skin and hear a strange noise. Spear dives into the water to see what it is, and he sees a giant turtle. Spear strangles the turtle as it swims around, and Fang salivates on the raft. He swims to the surface for air and dives into the water. The turtle tries to attack him, but he dodges and continues strangling it. He swims beneath the raft and forces the turtle to stick out of the water. Fang sees it and bites it, killing it. They drag it onto the raft and eat its meat while Spear gets the idea to use its shell as a shade. They continue their journey and see several fish jumping out of the water. Flying dinosaurs emerge and attack them as they catch the fish. A storm begins, and a megalodon emerges. It destroys the raft, and Fang and Spear fall into the water. It attacks Fang as Spear swims to them, but she dodges and tries to escape. The megalodon moves around and tries to attack Spear, but he evades its attack. It eventually catches him in its mouth, and he uses a piece of wood to stab its mouth. He swims to Fang, and a large wave hits them. The megalodon re-emerges, and Spear stabs its eye. The waves become more violent and separate Spear and Fang. Fang wakes up on a beach and realizes she isn't with Spear. She runs around the beach as she roars but doesn't find Spear. Fang sits on the beach and waits for Spear to arrive. She hears a strange noise from the forest and goes to see what it is. She sees a figure that looks like Spear but finds out it's a rock and a stick. Fang continues walking around and encounters another Tyrannosaurus named Red. Red runs away, and Fang walks around a rock in search of him. He watches her as she stands on the rock, and she walks away. A flying squirrel jumps off a tree and lands on Spear's hand. It catches the mosquito and eats it as he lies unconscious on the floor. Strange men walk to him and carry him away. Fang chases an animal as it runs away, and Red emerges. They catch the animal and growl at each other as they struggle for it. Red lets go of the animal and walk away as Fang eats, and she throws a piece of meat for him. He eats the meat and joins her in eating the animal. Meanwhile, Spear wakes up in a strange room covered in mud. He falls to the ground and remembers how he broke his arm in the ocean. A strange woman, who is a witch doctor, enters, and Spear runs out of the room. The townspeople see as he runs and pursues him as he defends himself with a spear. A villager realizes that Spear is hurt and afraid. He stops the others from attacking and gives Spear food and water. Fang walks with Red, and they arrive at a fruit tree. They eat the fruits and also eat the fermented ones on the ground. They get tipsy as they eat the fruits but continue eating. Spear enters the witch doctor's house and allows her to work on his arm. She hits the arm several times and sprays a powder on him, causing him to fall asleep. He eats with the man's family that night, and his daughter is scared of him. Red and Fang play as they try to catch some fireflies. Spear stares at the sky and walks around. He sees a wolf eating meat and walks to it. It growls at him, but he tames it, and they share its meat. Fang and Red wake up the following day, and Red walks through the fog. Fang follows him, and they sneak through a barrier and enter the town. Red attacks the humans and begins eating them, and Fang joins him. The people begin to scream, and Spear rushes out and sees her. He picks a spear and tries to fight Red, but Fang stops him. He tries jumping on Fang's back, but she doesn't let him. They continue fighting, and Red tries to eat Spear. Fang stops Red and kicks him off the roof. He falls and gets impaled by a spike, and Fang rushes to him. She feels bad for what she did and walks away sadly as he dies. Spear joins her and walks away, and the man tries to talk to him. He leaves the man and continues walking with Fang. Spear and Fang sit in the woods as it rains. Spear comforts her about Red's death, but she ignores him. He stands and sits somewhere else, and she eventually walks to him. They walk through the forest as it continues to rain and find a cave. They carefully enter the cave, and Spear starts a fire. He sees that the cave goes even deeper, and he lights a stick and walks inside. He finds paintings on the wall and looks at them. He sees a painted hand and compares it with his hand. Spear returns to Fang and sits down. The following day, Spear steps out of the cave and smiles as he sees that the forest is beautiful. He sees humans hunting antelopes in a field and remembers the painting in the cave. Spear continues walking and sees an old village. He looks at it and imagines when humans inhabited it. Spear picks up a spear and catches an animal. He takes it to the cave and drops it on the ground. That night, Spear walks out of the cave and does the ritual he saw Mira doing. He sees an owl staring at him and chases it away. Later, Spear and Fang wake up as they hear a strange noise. A bear emerges with a man on its back, and it growls at them. Fang roars at the bear, and the cave begins to crumble as they roar at each other. The bear leaves the cave, and Spear and Fang pursue it. Another bear hides beside the cave's entrance and scratches Spear's back. Fang roars at the bears as Spear is on the ground, and he stands up and prepares to fight. They attack the men, and the bears and Spear easily kill the man. Fang kills the bear and the second man prepares to fight them. Spear sees the symbol on the man's shield and realizes it's the same one on Myra's head. The man sees that he won't win the fight and runs away. He takes off his helmet as he runs but trips and falls to the ground. He hides and sees Spear and Fang emerge from the woods. He tries to run away, but Spear throws his spear at him and impales his leg. He says Myra's name to the man, but he stands up and fights Spear. Fang grabs the man and eats him, and Spear picks up his sword. He practices with it and realizes he likes it. They see a footprint and decide to follow it. Spear and Fang run through the woods and arrive at a human town. He instructs her to stay in the woods as he enters the town and searches for Mira. Spear walks through the town and finds several slaves in a building. The slaves panic, but Mira sees and hugs him. He tries to leave with her, but she refuses to leave the other slaves. Spear walks out of the building with Mira and the others. He hears a growling sound coming from the fog and prepares to fight. Several men arrive to town riding on bears. The slaves kneel as they see the men, but Spear prepares to fight. A man on a bear sees that Spear is holding his comrade's sword, and he screams. The men approach Spear as they prepare to attack him, but the bears smell something and become uncomfortable. Spear smiles as the people wonder what's going on, and Fang emerges. She stands on a building and roars, but she falls into the building. A man tries to attack Spear, but Fang eats him. Spear and Fang fight the men and defeat most of them. A man hears the noise, emerges from his hut, and sees what's happening. He rushes and rings a bell to inform the people that they are under attack. The people emerge from their homes and see Spear and Fang fight and kill several people. Rika, the chieftain's wife, emerges from her house and prepares to fight. Mira instructs the slaves to run into the forest, and a man follows her. The townspeople surround Spear, and Rika's son shoots him with an arrow. Mira kills the man's bear, picks up his axe, and beheads him with it. Spear breaks through the townspeople's shields but gets shot again. He throws a man at the building, and the boy falls off. Rika emerges with her axe and injures Fang. She stabs Fang's head with a spear, but Fang bites her and slams her on the ground several times, killing her. She and Spear continue fighting the people, and Spear pushes the boy away as he attacks him. The boy grabs Spear, and as he throws him to the ground, he hits his head on a rock and dies. A red mist covers the town, and the townspeople continue attacking Spear and Fang. They use the mist to their advantage and massacre everyone in the town. The chieftain and his older son Eldar return to the town with more slaves. Eldar blows a horn but gets no response, and they arrive at the dock. They see a trail of blood that leads to the town, and as they enter, Eldar vomits as he sees a dead body. The fog clears, and they see that everyone in the town is dead. The chieftain rushes as he searches for his wife but finds her dead on the ground. He cries as he screams her name, and Eldar emerges with his younger brother. Eldar and the chieftain bury the people in a cave and seal it with a large rock. They return to their boat, release the slaves, and place Rika and the boy on the boat. They push the boat into the water, and the chieftain is too sad to set it ablaze. Eldar comforts his dad, takes the bow and arrow, and sets the boat on fire. They wear their armor, set the town on fire, and set out to have their revenge. 1890 in England. A man enters a house as it rains, and the butler informs him of the meeting that's occurring in the study. Members of a group called the Historical Society sit in a study, and Charles, a scientist, talks to the people. He tells them that they aren't different from the primitive men and can revert to that behavior under the right circumstance. The butler enters the study and informs Darlington that the constable wants to talk to them and says it's urgent. The constable enters and informs Darlington and the others that an inmate in the asylum escaped and killed an orderly in the process. He says they should be careful and remain indoors because the man is dangerous. Darlington says they have the inmate and points at Charles as he and the others make fun of him. The constable leaves, and Darlington says Charles's theory is insane. They hear a strange noise from upstairs, and the butler goes to check what it is. They hear a crashing sound again, and as they talk, a strange liquid enters one of the men's cups. They realize that the liquid is blood, and they decide to check on the butler. Charles, Darlington, and a French man go upstairs to check on the butler but see the asylum inmate eating him. They run away as he attacks them, and Charles hits him with a chair, but he doesn't flinch. They run to the study as it pursues them, and it kills another man. The trio tries to run away, and they lock themselves in a room. The insane man bursts in through the window, and they remove the barricade and run to the armory. He follows them and strangles Charles, but Darlington loads a gun and shoots at the man. The man runs out of the room, and they arm themselves and leave the room. The trio slowly walks around the house, and the insane man suddenly appears beside them. Darlington tries to shoot him, but he dodges and attacks them. He grabs Blakely, headbutts him, and uses him as a shield. The insane man tries to attack them, but Darlington shoots and injures him. He runs away, and Charles and Darlington enter the study to search for him. The insane man drops from the roof and knocks them to the ground. Darlington stands up, takes off his shirt, and fights the insane man. Charles is surprised and sees a poster that says Darlington is a boxing champion. Darlington punches the man several times, but the man begins strangling him, and Charles helps him. Darlington shoots the man with an arrow, and he falls into a pond. They enter the garden, and the man emerges from some flowers and throws a flower pot at them. He knocks Darlington to the ground and beats Charles. He tries to eat Charles, but Darlington picks up a large bone and hits him. He takes off his shirt and fights the insane man like a barbarian. He stabs the man several times with a stick and eventually stabs his head, killing him. Charles sees what happens and celebrates, and Darlington realizes Charles was right. Spear wakes up on a boat with his injuries healed. He sees Mira tending to Fang's wounds, and she rushes to him and touches him. She returns to Fang and pulls out the arrows from Fang as she treats her wounds. Later, Spear and Fang wake up, and Fang stares at the fog. Mira and Spear pick their weapons, and the chieftain and Eldar's ship emerges. They ram into Spear's ship, and the chieftain jumps on the ship. Fang tries to attack him, but Eldar shoots at her. Spear fights the chieftain, but he is covered in armor, and none of Spear's attacks penetrate. Fang and Mira fight Eldar as he shoots several arrows at them. She hits Eldar off the top, but he saves himself and lands on the ground. Spear kicks the chieftain, and his helmet falls off. The chieftain sees as Fang attacks Eldar and rushes to save him. The ships hit some rocks, and Fang throws Eldar off the ship. The chieftain jumps out of the water to save his son, and Mira navigates the boat to safety. She tries to tie the ship to a tree, and Fang and Spear help her. Fang suddenly runs into the woods, and they follow her. They watch as she gathers leaves on some soil, and Spear realizes she wants to lay eggs. He celebrates and helps her set her nest. The chieftain saves his son from the water and tends to his wounds. He stares at a fire that night and sees a demonic entity. He wakes up and sees Eldar emerge with an animal. They stand beside a stream and hear the screeching of some birds, and the chieftain gets an idea. Fang walks around her nest and lays 3 eggs as Spear and Mira watch her. Spear tries to touch the eggs, but she doesn't let him. The chieftain and Eldar climb a cliff and some large birds fly around them. Eldar jumps on the bird while the chieftain climbs the cliff. He ties a rope to the bird's neck, and he and his son tame the bird. Spear catches fish for Fang while Mira fixes the ship. Eldar and the chieftain swoop down on the birds and attack them. Fang protects her eggs from the birds and one grabs Mira and lifts her into the air. Eldar tries to drop her, but she hangs on to a rope. He cuts the rope and Mira falls and Spear catches her. Spear and Mira fight the chieftain and throw him off the bird. He falls through the woods and lands on the ground but survives the fall. He stands up and sees Spear kick Eldar off the bird. Eldar lands on a rock and dies, and the chieftain lets the water carry him away as he sees his dead son. Spear and Mira reunite with Fang, and he hugs her. The chieftain lies on a rock and prepares to die. Some women float from the sky and try to take him up with them, but strange demonic monsters grab him and drag him to the ground. The chieftain arrives in the underworld and goes through a door. He sees the demonic entity from his dream and makes a deal with him, granting him power. Meanwhile, Spear sits on the beach, and Mira looks annoyed. She packs food into the ship, and Spear realizes she wants them to leave. Spear makes a nest on the boat, and he and Mira try to make Fang get on the ship. They trick her as they separate her eggs, and she realizes they have made a nest for her on the boat. She places her eggs on the boat, climbs on, and they begin moving. Spear catches fish the following morning and eats one. He and the others see a strange ship at a distance with smaller ships moving toward them. Several Egyptian soldiers emerge from the ship and attack them, but Mira and Spear fight them while Fang protects her eggs. A giant African man named Kamau emerges and knocks Spear out. Fang puts her eggs in her mouth and tries to fight Kamau, but he knocks them out, and one of the eggs breaks. She gets angry and fights him, and Spear and Mira join him. Ima, an Egyptian queen, emerges and holds Fang's eggs as her hostage. The soldiers capture Spear and the others and take them into the ship. They separate Mira from the others and lock them in cells. Kamau emerges and is locked in a cell. Spear and Fang stare at him but eventually fall asleep. Fang wakes up and sees the soldiers trying to restrain her. She attacks them, but Ima enters with her egg and threatens to break it. Spear calms her down, and Ima realizes she can use Spear and Fang as her fighters. The soldiers place Spear and Fang in a ship, and they head for a battlefield. The ship opens, and Kamau and the soldiers leave the ship. Spear and Fang see the war that's occurring and join the fight. Spear climbs a tower and kills the archers that defend the city. Fang helps the soldiers break into the city, and they attack and kill more enemy soldiers. The king emerges and is frightened as Spear and Fang roar. The chieftain, who is now a powerful monster, emerges from the ground. He forms a weapon from his hand and practices his new powers. The chieftain begins walking, and as he gets to a stream, he walks on water. Meanwhile, the Egyptian soldiers loot the city and Ima arrives with Fang's eggs and Kamau's daughter Amal. Ima goes to the king and sees his cheetah cub. She takes the cub and orders her men to kill the king. Ima allows Kamau to see his daughter, and Fang growls at her because she is with her eggs. A soldier takes Amal from Kamau and returns her to Ima. Fang roars at her, and they are forced to continue fighting in several wars. Spear, Fang, and Kamau walk into the ship and enter a pool as they bleed after the fight. They engage in more wars, and Ima and her soldiers loot the fallen kingdoms. While in the pool, a cannonball breaks through the wall and a different kingdom attacks. Their king fights with the soldiers and is shocked as he sees Spear, Fang, and Kamau defeating his men with ease. The Egyptians defeat their enemies and sink their ship. That night, Spear lies in his cell, stands up, and frowns. Ima sits on her throne as her slaves entertain her and her soldiers hold the enemy king. A soldier pushes Mira, but she refuses to dance, and the music stops playing. Ima stands, and the people continue playing the music as she dances. She dances in front of the king and kicks him off the ground, killing him. She walks to her throne, and Mira dances for her. The following day, the Egyptians arrive at a peaceful kingdom, and their leader offers food to Ima. She looks around as the leader kneels before her and walks away. Ima instructs Kamau to kill the people, but he refuses and gathers their offering. Ima threatens to kill Amal, and Kamau walks back to the leader and kills him. He attacks and kills the townspeople as they scream and run away. Spear and the others sit in their cell that night, and Spear stares at Kamau. A soldier emerges with meat and throws it into the cells. Spear drops his meat outside the cell and knocks out the guard as he walks to him. He retrieves the key, unlocks his cell, and steps out. He opens Kamau's cell, but he refuses to leave. Spear makes his way up the stairs and gets to Ima. He sees Mira dancing and sees Fang's eggs beside Ima. Mira sees Spear, and a slave screams. Spear tries to fight Ima, but she uses her skills to fight him. Mira retrieves the eggs and Amal and tries to escape, but Ima follows them. Spear knocks her down and attacks the soldiers. They make their way out down a staircase, and the eggs hatch as Spear and Mira fight the soldiers. Ima punches Mira and takes the baby dinosaurs from her. Fang hears the dinosaurs, breaks out of her cage, and attacks the soldiers. Ima threatens to kill the dinosaurs and Amal, and Kamau emerges and sees what is happening. A giant Egyptian ship moves through the ocean. Ima holds the baby dinosaurs with chains while Spear and the others are held down with chains. Kamau stands in front of them with an axe and is ordered to kill them. He raises the axe and prepares to kill Fang, and she closes her eyes. Kamau looks at Amal and remembers when they were in their village. He stops her from killing a spider and sets it free. The giant Africans are a tribe of peaceful people who live in harmony. They are suddenly attacked by Ima and her soldiers, and Kamau places Amal on his back as he fights and kills the soldiers. Ima swiftly takes Amal from his shoulder and threatens to kill her. He kneels before her, and as he holds the axe, he uses it to free Fang and throws it at Ima with the intent to kill her. Ima dodges the axe, and the baby dinosaurs run to their mother. Spear removes the concrete slab that's connected to the chain and uses it to fight the soldiers. Mira uses her feet to retrieve a key and frees herself. She releases Spear and Ima gets angry as she stands up. Ima runs to a giant gun and shoots Fang, but she dodges. She swings to a spear gun, but Spear pushes it as she shoots Fang. He picks up a weapon and fights her. Kamau runs with Amal, and she leads him to a room. He realizes that his people are forced to move the ship using giant paddles. Spear fights Ima while Mira and Fang fight the soldiers. One of the baby dinosaurs gets hit by an arrow, and Mira takes it and jumps off the ship. Spear and Fang follow her and jump off the ship as Ima screams. Several soldiers attack Kamau, and he knocks them down. His people watch as he fights and gets inspired to fight for their freedom. Meanwhile, Spear and the others swim away as the giant paddles move toward them. The paddles stop moving, and Kamau watches as his people fight and defeat the soldiers. Spear enters a small ship, kills the soldiers, and releases the slaves that move the ship. Ima walks to the stairs, but the giant Africans emerge and attack them. Kamau walks to her, and she tries to fight him, but he doesn't flinch. He picks her up, walks to the edge of the ship, and throws her down. Ima lands in Spear's ship and dies on impact. Spear and Mira look up and see Kamau happy with his daughter. That night, Spear and Mira stare at the sky as their ship moves away. Amal feeds Kamau, and they see the chieftain at a distance. He walks on water and continues searching for Spear and Fang. A young Spear stands beside his dad. His dad begins painting on a wall, and several saber-toothed tigers emerge. They attack the people, and Spear and his dad fight and kill them. The tigers injure Spear's dad and bite his arm off. Spear continues fighting, but the tigers kill his dad and eat him. He gets angry and fights the tigers and kills most of them. He hides under a dead tiger as one attacks and uses a rock to smash its head. He continues smashing its head in anger, and as he stops, the townspeople give him a necklace and make him their chief. Mira wakes Spear up in excitement and points at her home. They get to the shore, and Mira stares at a tree and cries. Spear consoles her, and she remembers how she was having fun with her friends and lover. A strange man appeared on their shores and attacked them. They kidnapped her as they killed her friend Amara and branded her head, enslaving her. The ship enters a storm, and an axe falls in front of her. She cuts the chain that holds her, jumps into the water, and escapes. Mira continues crying, and Fang and her kids leave the boat as the babies learn how to swim. Spear and the others walk through the land and arrive at a cave that night. Mira performs her prayer, and Spear joins her. The following morning, Fang places her kids beside Spear and leaves the cave. She walks around as she searches for food and comes across a woman bathing in a pond. The woman sees Fang and screams. Mira and Spear hear the scream and run to Fang. Mira stops Fang from attacking the woman and realizes the woman is her friend Amara. They hug as they are reunited and Amara takes them to her hometown. Spear, Fang, and the babies enter the town, and the townspeople are terrified. Mira calms them and meets the chief, who makes everyone celebrate her return. The townspeople sit around a fire that night and watch a performance. They bow as someone dressed as a moon arrives and dances. Spear walks to Fang and the babies and sits with them. Mira takes them to an empty building, and Fang breaks through the wall. She sleeps with her kids beside her, and Spear doesn't sleep. He begins drawing on the wall and eventually falls asleep. Mira enters the building the following day and sees the drawings on the wall. She watches as Spear sleeps and feels bad for him. Spear sits and watches as Fang walks around. The townspeople scream as the chieftain arrives, and Spear climbs Fang and runs to him. The chieftain forms a weapon and screams as he attacks them. They run away, but he transforms into a snake and follows them up a hill. He sets Spear ablaze, but Spear pushes him, and they fall down the hill. Mira rushes to him and puts out the fire on his body. The demonic entity emerges and drags the chieftain to the underworld. Mira asks for help, and they take Spear to the building. The witch doctor treats Spear, but he is gravely wounded, and Fang cries. She and her kids leave the room, and Spear mumbles Myra's name. She looks at the drawing and realizes Spear loves her. Mira gets on Spear and mates with him. Years later, Fang and her kids walk around as Mira follows them. Mira and Spear's daughter sits on one of the kids. She holds a spear and screams as the dinosaur roars. The end. Thank you for watching. Check out these other videos and make sure to subscribe and tap the bell to be notified about our latest videos. See you next time.